like, again, I'm going to bring lots of parallels with mental health here. So many of you on the call may have done some mental health awareness training, or perhaps mental health first aid or suicide first aid. And in the main, what that training will have done is probably given you some confidence, given you some knowledge and skills, and made you feel a bit more confident to be able to actually have a conversation with someone that you're working with, or even someone that you know, a friend or a family member, who you suspect might be struggling. Well, similarly with money, what we have developed here at the Money and Pension Service alongside the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities is a short e-learning course about financial well-being. It just launched on Tuesday, so this is hot off the press, and it's part of the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities All Our Health e-learning series. So there's a whole range of topics within the All Our Health series, and financial well-being has just been added from Tuesday. All of the All Our Health modules follow a similar sort of pattern. So there's a section which explains why this topic is important. So it talks about the links between health and money. And for this module, it actually talks about health in the broadest sense, not just mental health, because there's lots of evidence about the impact of money problems on physical health too. There's then a section which talks about what you can do practically to support. And although this is aimed at health and care professionals, I know that not everyone on this call is a health and care professional, but it's a short e-learning course. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to do. And although some of the language you might think, oh, that doesn't apply to me because it's talking about health and care professionals, it's still got some really useful hints and tips in there that I think are useful to take away. What we're absolutely not suggesting is that a health and care professional, or any of you on this call who isn't trained as a money advisor or a debt advisor, should suddenly start giving somebody some money advice if you think that they're struggling with both their mental health and their money. That is absolutely not what we're suggesting that anybody does. To be able to give advice on a money issue, particularly debts, you need to be trained, supervised, you need to have insurance, because if someone sues you, if you give wrong advice, then you can be sued. If it's debt advice, you also need to be regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. So my message today is absolutely do not give any advice on a money issue, but really encouraging you to see that there are links between the two, and that someone that is in front of you might be struggling with a money problem as well as their mental health. And what we're advocating in the training is something that you might have heard of before, which is a very brief intervention, where we're suggesting that you can ask whether there's a money problem, offer to assist, and then act. And I can see that someone put in the chat there, signposting. Absolutely. It's about signposting or making a direct referral into a service that can help that person with their money issue. Now, that might feel a bit daunting, but again, just like with mental health training, there are phrases that we are encouraged to say. So for example, asking someone, how are you? And then asking again, how are you really? Something that is often trained in a mental health awareness course. So here are just some suggested conversation starters in terms of using that ask, assist and act model. So, is it okay if I ask you about money and finances? Or, there's lots of pressure out there about money at the moment, which can be really stressful. Is it okay if I ask you about money? Well, I've got some useful information I can share with you on money and finances if you'd like to hear more. So not necessarily pushing it on the person, but giving that space, that opportunity for them to perhaps open up about a money issue. And would you like me to refer you, or would you like me to signpost you to a source of support for your money issue? So I'm sure there are lots of other ideas, and if anyone's had any experience of broaching the money topic, again, please do share in the chat. Those are just some ideas for conversation starters to be able to ask assist, and then act in relation to a money problem. If someone says, yes, I do want some help from my money situation, well, where do you send them? If that person hasn't fallen behind and isn't in debt, and I'm going to come to if they're in debt in a moment, but if they've got questions about money, if they are struggling with their energy bills, for example, or they don't know what benefits they might be entitled to, or they've been asked to pay for adult social care costs, there maybe is an issue with a will or inheritance, absolutely any question that you can think of about money, I'm pretty much sure that the answer can be on our Money Helper service. So Money Helper is a service that we at the Money and Pension Service provide. So I mentioned earlier that we are backed by government, so the service is free, it's impartial, and it's constantly kept up to date, so it's a trusted source of support. So I'm aware that many of you might already have links with local advice services, and that's absolutely fantastic. This is not to replace that, but it's certainly an alternative if it's a more general money question and perhaps not a debt question. And there's everything on there from pocket money right through to pensions. So a huge array of information. It's available on the website, and people can also contact our Money Guiders team via the website via web chat. It's also available via a free phone telephone number, and people can contact via WhatsApp as well. If someone that you're working with has their first language isn't English, the team on the helpline can also access interpreters through Language Line. So we hope that it's as accessible as it can be. There are lots of tools on the website as well, or that can be talked through over the telephone with our helpline guiders. And I'm going to talk through some of those tools in a moment. And also on the website, probably one of the things it doesn't do, because it provides money guidance, is it doesn't provide debt advice. But on the website is this debt advice locator tool, and the person can pop in their postcode, or you can put in their postcode for them, and that will bring up all of the debt advice services that could be available to them, which are free and independent. So it might be a local service that you're already familiar with, or if that person feels comfortable and is able to access debt advice over the telephone or online, then it brings up all of the different options for receiving debt advice. And we're very conscious of the cost of living pressures that people are facing at the moment. So there's a whole raft of content online, and again available through our helpline as well, on this very topic. So there's a whole section on helping squeezed incomes go further. So I mentioned earlier that our costs are going up, but perhaps our income isn't, so our incomes are being squeezed. So there's masses of information about different support that people might be entitled to, how to track spending. Our budget planner is very popular. Also, if someone is facing job loss or redundancy that you're working with, or that you know, there's a whole section of information for people there, so they know their rights and how to protect their finances. And for people who are self-employed, it's always difficult because your income might fluctuate. And so there's a whole section of information on there that's dedicated to people who are self-employed and might also be struggling at the moment. And one of the tools that we've created is a bill prioritizer tool. So I mentioned earlier I used to be a debt advisor, and one of the first things that I learned was that there are two types of payment in the main: a priority and a non-priority. And a priority payment is one where if you don't pay it, you can lose something that's important to you. And a non-priority is one where if you don't pay it, the consequences aren't as severe. But in the main, people don't know the difference between those two. And they also don't know that depending on the kind of bill or payment that they're worried about, there might be different options available to them for getting help. There might be different techniques that they use to contact and deal with those creditors. So we've created this bill prioritizer tool where people can select which bills that they're worried about. And what the system will do is take each bill in turn and walk through the different options for dealing with it, for getting help, you know, with paying. So for energy, for example, there's different sources of support for paying energy bills, but also how you might approach talking to that creditor if you're concerned that you can't afford or you might fall behind on that bill. And last but not least, what I wanted to share with you is something that we've worked alongside a mental health charity to create, called a mental health and money toolkit. So this was developed by a service called Mental Health and Money Advice, which is actually the mental health charity that I used to work for. And the Money and Pension Service have supported the development of it alongside the National Academy for Social Prescribing. And when the toolkit was developed, or going through that development phase, the charity worked with people who had experience of mental health and money problems, and they asked, what is it that you would find useful and how would you want to get that information? And what they told us was that they would like a patient-held record, so something that they could take with them, and had space for writing notes and jotting thoughts down. And they also wanted that pincer approach that I talked about earlier. So they wanted something that would help with how they were feeling about money. And they also wanted some money guidance in terms of what to do with the money issue as well. So the toolkit takes that pincer approach, and the first few sections are looking at mental health and well-being. So there are some cognitive behavioural therapy technique exercises in there for dealing with avoidance and problem solving and building self-esteem, because that was actually the overwhelming feedback from the group of people who had that lived experience, was that they felt really embarrassed, ashamed, guilty for struggling, and that those feelings were, you know, preventing them from then being able to get any support. So the first section is trying to address that and really reassuring people that they're not alone, that, you know, there are so many people who are in this situation and that help is available. The second sort of part of the booklet then covers some money guidance. So it explains a priority and a non-priority payment. There is a space in there for people to make notes and jot down an income and expenditure sheet so they can see what they've got coming in and going out. There's a whole section on preparing for a welfare benefits appointment or application, because again, that was something that people told us that they felt very anxious about. And there's also a section on there for how to prepare for and what to expect from a debt advice appointment as well. So these toolkits are available online. There's the link there on the slide. What's on the website is an editable PDF. And there are also versions that can be printed in black and white, so they don't have the colours, so they don't take up as much printer ink. But if you, as an organisation, you would like a number of these to be able to give out to the people that you might be working with, please do send an email to partners@maps.org.uk, because we have got some printed versions. Actually, I don't know whether you can see it, because they come in these nice little A5 booklets. So we can send a bunch of those out to you, to your workplace, and you can give them out to your stakeholders, whoever that they might be. And before I hand back to Natasha, what I just wanted to finish with, as with, again, with the parallels with mental health and well-being, I think usually a mental health awareness session, for example, would end with a section on don't forget to look after your own mental health and well-being. And a phrase that I really like is, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, it's true.
So just similarly with financial well-being, please, you know, look after your own financial well-being. Everything that I've talked about today, the support that's out there, the website, the helpline, the toolkit, All of it is just as useful for you, for me, for the people that are in your friends and family circle as they are for the people that you might be working with. So please do talk about money. Let's try and reduce the stigma and the shame that still surrounds it. It's not embarrassing. We all have to deal with money, and we all might end up, with money difficulties at some point. So let's talk about it. Let's get help, and let's really tackle in a pincer movement this stigma around both mental health and money issues.
Yeah.